What section 46 says, when an immovable property in which more than one transferor has separate interest, distinct in share, and if that is transferred for consideration, then what will happen? The transfers are in absence of contract to the contrary, entitled to share in the consideration equally. That means transferor are entitled to get the consideration money equally, where their interest in the property were of equal value. Suppose X, Y, Z having 1/3 share in a particular property, and that is transferred to L. So, if there is no contract to the contrary, then such transferor will be entitled to get this consideration in equal shares, where their interest in the property were of equal value, and where such interest were of unequal value proportionate to the value of their respective interest. So this is section 46 is very simple provision. What it says, a property is transferred for consideration, that immovable property is transferred for consideration. The transferor have distinct share in that property, and if they have equal share in that property, they are entitled for equal share in the value, in the consideration money. Similarly, if they have distinct share, then they are also entitled to get the consideration money in unequally according to the proportionate of their share. Suppose X, Y, Z, they transferred a piece of land. X has 50% share on that land, Y had 1/4 share, Z had 1/4 share on that land. Both of them transferred that property for 10 lakh rupees. So in such case, X will get 5 lakh rupees, Y will get what? 2.5 lakh rupees, and the Z will get 2.5 lakh rupees. That is out of the 10 lakh rupees. So they will get the consideration money according to their share. But suppose they have equal share, they are entitled for equal share. In such case, they are entitled for equal share in the consideration money. This is section 46. It is a very simple section. What it says, when property is transferred by several persons having equal share for consideration, they are entitled to get equal share in the consideration. If they have this separate distinct share, then in such case, not having equal share but disproportionate share or not unequal share, in such case, what will happen? They will get the consideration money according to the share in which they are they right in that property. So here the illustration will make you clear. A owning a moiety and B and C each of a quarter share of Mauja Sultanpur. Moiety means here it is share, half share, and B and C each are quarter share. Exchange an 8 on a share of that Mauja for a quarter share of Mauja Lalpura. That is 50% share of Sultanpur that was transferred in exchange of a quarter share of Mauja Lalpura. There being no agreement to the contrary, A is entitled to an 8 share in Lalpura and B and C is to the 16th share in the Mauja. So this is half share because the property was transferred. In exchange, what will happen in exchange? In exchange, some property they got. That is consideration money. That the property which was transferred in the exchange, that will be treated as consideration money, and from that they will be entitled to get share according to their proportionately, in which they transfer their property. A being entitled to life interest in the Mauja Atrali and B and C to the reversion, sell the Mauja for 1,000. A's life interest is ascertained to be worth 600. The reversion of 400. A is entitled to receive 600 out of the purchase. B and C to receive RS 400. This is a very simple section. That means when property is transferred, and in that property is transferred by more than one person having equal share, for consideration they are entitled to get equal share in the consideration. If that property is transferred, then they have unequal share, then they will get interest or share from the consideration according to their respective share. 47. Transfer by a co-owner of share in common property. Where several co-owners of whole property transfers a share therein without specifying that the transfer is to take effect on any particular share or shares of the transferor. The transfer as among such transferors take effect on such share equally where the shares were equal and where they were unequal proportionality to the extent of such share. 47 is the supplementary to section 46. What it says, when property is transferred by several co-owners without specifying to what extent their share is transferred, then if they are equal share, then the transfer will, then from that property, their share will go equally. If they are disproportionate share, then that their interest will go to the transferee according to their interest, share of interest in the property. What it says, where several co-owners of a movable property belong to several co-owners, transfer a share therein without specifying that the transfer is to take effect on any particular share. They do not specify as to what extent from the share of each of the co-owner that will pass to the transferee. In such case, if it is not there, then the transfer as among such transferors take effect on such share equally where the share were equal. When the share were equal, then from equal share their property will go, and where they were unequal proportionality to the extent of such share. If you compare the provisions section 47 with section 46, in section 46, what? From the consideration money, the transferor, joint transferors are entitled to get if according to their share. But similarly, the interest of the transferor will pass when there is a joint transfer according to their share. Both, they will get the benefit and they will also bear the liability equally. If they have equal share, equal benefit they will get from the consideration money, they will get according to their share as per section 46, and their interest will go according to their proportionate share as per section 47. 48 says, what is section 48? Priority of right created by transfer. Where a person purports to create by transfer at different times right in or over the same immovable property. A person transfers on the same immovable property at different time. Then what will be the consequence? So transfer, you should not confuse that transfer is always sale. Transfer may be limited transfer like mortgage, lease, etc. So in such case, where a person purports to create by transfer at different times rights in or over the same movable property. On the same movable property, transfers were made by different times. Suppose a property X that was first mortgaged to Y, thereafter that property was mortgaged to L, thereafter that mortgagee was property to Z. So in different times, when a person purports to create by transfer at different times right on or over the same movable property, and such rights cannot all exist or be exercised in their full extent together. If those rights cannot be exercised full extent together, or those rights cannot all exist, in such case, each latter created right shall, in the absence of a special contract or reservation binding the earlier transferees, be subject to the right previously created. That means a transfer which is made first in point of time, that will be enforced first. Thereafter the second right, second transfer will be enforced. This is section 48. What it says? That is, where a person purports to create by transfer at different times right in or over the same immovable property. One immovable property that transfers were made and rights were created on that property by such transfers at different times. Then, and such right cannot exist at a time, and such right cannot at all exist or be exercised to their full extent. All those rights cannot be exist or that cannot be exercised to the full extent. Then each latter created right, the latter created right in the absence of a special contract. If there is a special contract between the first transferee or the second transferee, then that is okay. Then that will not govern this principle. So in such case, in absence of a contract to the contrary, then in the absence of special contract or reservation binding the earlier transferee, be subject to the rights previously created. What is this provision? What this? Suppose this is the doctrine that is cui prior est tempore potior jurie, which means he who is first in point of time has a better claim in law. He who is first in point of time has a better claim in law. This is principle of natural justice, that if rights are created in favor of two persons over the same property, then the first right will be prevail. If after exercise of that right, if some property is left, then the second transfer will get. So this section is section 48 is based on this principle, that natural justice, that if rights are created in favor of two persons over the same property at two different times, the one that has been created first shall have advantage in law. If rights were created on the same property at two different times, then first right that will be exercised. If after exercise of that right, if there is any other property left in respect of that property, the second right will be created, will be enforced. But if all those rights can be exercised, that can be exercised at the same time, that can be done. Suppose a property worth 20 lakh rupees. First it was mortgaged to a person for 3 lakh. Thereafter it was mortgaged to the person for 5 lakh. Thereafter another person to 1 lakh. So all those rights can be enforced at the same time, because the value of the property is much more to satisfy all the mortgages. So in such case, this section 48 will not be applicable. What it says? Where a person purports to create by transfer at different times rights in or over the same movable property, and such rights cannot at all exist or be exercised to their full extent together. In the previous example, if the value of the property is more, all those rights created under mortgage can be exercised together at the same time. So, but suppose the property is of less value. Suppose the value of the property is only 10 lakh rupees. First it was mortgaged to 7 lakh. Thereafter it was mortgaged to 5 lakh. Thereafter it was mortgaged to 2 lakh. So in such case, all such rights cannot be enforced at the same time. So in such case, this principle will be applicable. The right which has been created first in point of time, that will be exercised. Thereafter, the property is left in respect of that, the second transfer will effect. Thereafter, if any property is left, then the third right will be exercised. There is only one exception in the Transfer of Property Act, that is section 78. Suppose what it provides, where through the fraud, misrepresentation, gross negligence of prior mortgagee, another person has been induced to advance money on the security of the mortgage property, the prior mortgagee shall be postponed to the subsequent mortgagee. What it says? Suppose first a property worth 10 lakh rupees. It had been mortgaged to Mr. A. Thereafter, the A, knowing that the fact there is a mortgage of that property to him, he misrepresented to another person, or he remained silent when that owner was mortgaging to a third party, and he connived with the original owner, and thereby this owner mortgaged that property to another person. In such case, then the prior mortgagee right will be postponed till the exercise of the right of the subsequent mortgage. Because of the fraud or misrepresentation or any gross negligence of the prior mortgagee, a person became the second mortgage. In such case, that is section 78. It is popularly known as taking, etc., subrogation, that we will discuss there. Similarly, in section 15 of the Registration Act, there is a provision. What is that? Suppose a document is optional registration. A document is optional registration. So in such case, if there is two documents, even the document which has been created subsequently, if it has been registered, in such case, the second transferee will get priority in enforcement of his transfer. So this is section 48. What it says? That where a person purposed to create by transfer at different times, transfers were made at different times of same property, then in such case, and there are more than one transferee, and if all those transfers cannot be exercised to its full extent, then in such case, the first transferee will get the property, and after him, the second transferee, and so on. So this is who is first in point of time has a better claim in law. A person who is first in point of time has a better claim in law. That is also natural justice also that if two persons are the transferee over the same property, then the one who has been created first shall have advantage in law. This is section 48. Now coming to section 49, transfers of right under policy. What is transfer of right under policy? Suppose a movable property has been, there is an insurance in respect of that property. If there is a house, there was an insurance policy, and that house was transferred. So after transfer, or the entire house is transferred, or a part of his house is transferred, thereafter the transferor got the insurance money. In such case, whether the transferee will get any share or the insurance money or not, that section 49 provides about the same. What it says, where immovable property is transferred for consideration, that means this is applicable for consideration, not for gift. When an immovable property is transferred for consideration, and such property or any part of thereof at the date of the transfer insured against loss or damage by fire, only loss of damage by fire, that immovable property had been insured for loss, either the entire immovable property or a part of immovable property had been insured for damage by fire. The transferee, in case of such loss or damage, may, in the absence of a contract to the contrary. In the absence of a contract to the contrary means what? Suppose when there was a transfer, it was specifically agreed that even if whatever insurance money you will get, that will go to the transferor, not to the transferee. In absence of a contract to the, if such a contract is not there, then the transferee will require any money which the transferor actually receives. Whatever money the transferor actually receives because of fire accident from the insurance company, or so much thereof as may be necessary to be applied in reinstating the property. That the transferee will require the transferor to give the money which he receives from the insurance company to restoring the property. This is section 49. What it says? Immovable property is transferred for consideration, and if that property had been insured for damage or loss by fire, and there is no contract to the contrary, that the transferee will not give the insurance money. If in such case, the transferee, in case of such loss or damage, may, in the absence of a contract to the contrary, if there is no contract, require the transferor to make good the loss which is sustained because of such fire accident. So this is section 49. That is, if there is an immovable property that has been insured for damage by fire, and that property was transferred, then if suppose fire accident took place and the transferor receives some insurance money, then out of that insurance money, the transferee will get that money for restoration of that property. That is section 49. Now section 50. Rent bona fide paid to holder under defective title. What section 50 says? Suppose a person is a lessee in respect of a particular house or particular immovable property. He doesn't know that in the meantime that property has been transferred by the original owner to another person. Without knowing it, if he makes payment of the rent to the original owner, then he is not liable for the same. This section 50 provides what? No person shall be chargeable with any rent or profit of any immovable property, either rent or profit. Suppose he was paying some profit in case of lease, there is a condition that suppose a piece of land, agricultural land, has been leased out with a condition that whatever profit will come or whatever this output will come, usufruct will be paid in a particular share to the lessor. So in such case, where no person shall be chargeable with any rents or profits of any immovable property which he has in good faith paid or delivered to any person of whom he is for whom his good faith held such property. Notwithstanding, it may afterwards appear that the person to whom such payment or delivery were made had no right to receive such rent or profit. So in such case, suppose a particular house belonged to a particular family. The lessee was paying rent to the father, the karta. The lessee doesn't know that in the meantime there is a partition and that house had been allotted to the share of one of the sons. But without knowing it, he bona fidely believing that the house belonged to that father, paid that rent to the father. Then he cannot be charged once again for the said rent. This is section 50. What it says? No person shall be chargeable with any rent or profits of any immovable property which he has in good faith paid or delivered to any person of whom he in good faith held such property. Notwithstanding, it may afterwards appear that the person to whom such payment or delivery was made had no right to receive such rent or profit. The illustration will make you clear. A lets a field to B at a rent of 50 and then transferred the field to C. B, having no notice of the transfer, B was not aware of the fact of transfer, in good faith pays the rent to A. B is not chargeable with the rent so paid. This is section 50. So now we covered section 50. What is? Again, at the cost of repetition, I will go through I will make you to go through the provisions in section 46. What is section 46 says? When immovable property is transferred for consideration and by more than one person, whatever consideration money is received, out of that consideration money, the transferor are entitled to get equal share if they have equal share, or the disproportionate share, or not. That means not in unequal share when they have unequal share interest. Similarly, 47 says on such transfer, the interest in the property will pass to this transferee according to the share of the transferor in that property. This is section 47. 48, priority right, when a property, particular immovable property is transferred to different persons at different time, and all those transfers cannot exist, cannot be exercised to its full extent, then the first in point of time that transfer will prevail. If after the getting right as per the first transfer, if any other property is left, that will go to the second transfer. Now 49, that is when a property, immovable property has been insured for loss or damage by fire, and that is transferred, and there is no contract to the contrary, then in such case, if the transferor receives any damages, compensation for loss to that property by fire, then from that money, the transferee will require or will get the money to make good the loss which is sustained due to such fire accident. Section 50 says, when bona fidely a person is a lessee, he pays rent to a person bona fidely believing that he is the owner in good faith, and subsequently it is found that he is not the owner, then in such case he will not be made liable. Section 51 is very important provision. What it provides? Suppose a person having defective title, improvement made on immoved property by a person having defective title, then what will be the consequence? Suppose X purchased a piece of land from Mr. Y. Thereafter, he built a house on it. After the construction of house, that the son of the transferor or some other person filed a suit that claiming that he has title over that property. Ultimately, it was found that person had title. The court declared his title and passed order that he will be evicted from that property. So, in such case, what will be the consequence, or whether he will sustain loss for the improvement made by him on that immoved property in good faith, believing that he had a good title? The law, the provisions in section 51 answers this problem. What it provides? When a person believing, when the transferee of immoved property, what? A person in the transferee of immoved property makes any improvement on its property, any type of improvement, either she built a well or constructed a house, makes any improvement on the property, believing in good faith that he is absolutely entitled thereto. So here, a person becomes the transferee and he makes any improvement, that is, he dug a well or built a house, believing that he is entitled thereto, good in good faith, and he is subsequently evicted therefrom by any person having a better title. Thereafter, he is to be evicted by a person having a better title. Then the transferee has a right. There are two rights. First, then the transferee has a right to ask the person who is going to evict what? That the value of the improvement be estimated and he should pay. Or he will make that transferor, or he will compel that, he will ask that transferor to transfer that property to him at the then market value. This doctrine is based on the principle of equity. What is? He who seeks equity must do equity. Because what it says? When the transferee of immovable property makes any improvement on the property, believing in good faith that he is absolutely entitled thereto. He believes in good faith that he is absolutely entitled thereto. So, for an example, X purchased a piece of land from Y. After purchase, he believes that he has absolute interest in that property. He is the absolute owner of that property as he purchased. Then he built a house on it. He dug a well on it. Then thereafter, he is to be evicted by a person having a better title. That means thereafter a person who had filed a suit in respect of that property, and it was in that suit, it was held that the transferor had no right to transfer that property, and that person is entitled to get recovery of possession of that property. That person has a better title and is to be evicted by that person. So in such case, the transferee has a right to require, the person causing the eviction, the person who will evict him, what? Either to have the value of the improvement estimated and paid or secured to the transferee. What? First option, that let the valuation of the improvement be estimated, value of the improvement be estimated and be paid to him, or to sell interest in the property to the transferee, or to sell his interest in the property to him at the then market value thereof, irrespective of the value of such improvement, excluding the value of the improvement. This is section 51. What it says? Sometimes a question comes, what will be the consequence of eviction of a person who has made improvement on an immovable property, believing that he is the absolute owner of the same? He is entitled thereto. This is section 51. So here again says, the amount to be paid or secured in respect of such improvement, what is to be paid or secured, shall be the estimated value thereof at the time of the eviction. So the improvement will be valued at the time of eviction. At the time when he is to be evicted, what will be the value? Then similarly, when under the circumstances aforesaid, the transferee has planted or sown on the property crops which are growing when he is evicted therefrom. Suppose the person believing that he has a good title, he has sown crop, he has planted some trees on it, and he is to be evicted. Then in such case, he is entitled to such crops and to free ingress and egress, to gather and carry them. He is entitled to take that tree and to take that crop, and for that purpose he should get free ingress or entry or exit from that land. So this is section 51. What provides? That a person believing that he has a title, made improvement in good faith, so in such case and latter and thereafter, then he is to be evicted by a person having better title. In such case, he has two options, two rights. First, either to ask the transferee, that the person who is entitled to evict him, what? To get the value of the improvement estimated and pay him, or transfer the interest in that property, transfer his interest in the property to him at the then market value. So if he has planted any crop or planted any tree on it, he has a right to take that crop, take that tree at the before eviction. This is section 51. Section 52 deals about doctrine of lis pendens. What is lis pendens? Lis litigation, pendens pending. When a litigation is pending in respect of a particular immovable property, a piece of immovable property, then that property cannot be transferred without permission of the court so as to defeat the decree which will be passed in that case. This is the principle. That means when a litigation is pending, when a suit is pending in respect of an immovable property, and if any of the party transfers that property to a third party, then such transfer is not void, but that transfer is subject to the decree to be passed in that case. So this is doctrine of lis pendens. So when the litigation is pending, it has been provided that from the very day when the plaint was presented, suit was instituted, till the suit is finally disposed of in appeal, or all the execution proceedings have been disposed of, entire those period will be treated as the period during which the litigation is pending. If with the permission of the court, one of the party has alienated or transferred certain property, then in such case, the court has permitted, exempted him to that, the operation of the decree which will be passed in that case. This is, here in the case, if suppose a person cannot take the plea that he became the transferee in good faith for consideration, that is not applicable here. Like ostensible owner, consideration, good faith, that is there in, but in section 52, such a provision is not there. Even in good faith, if a person becomes the transferee without knowing the fact that there was a litigation pending, still the provisions of section 52 is applicable to such transfer. What section 52? You go through it. During the pendency in any court having authority. That means a competent court. Now, so it was excluding Jammu and Kashmir, now it is not there. Or established beyond such limit. Even outside India, if a court is, constitutional court is established under the authority of the central government, of any what suit or proceeding during pendency of any suit, in any court in India or outside India which is established under the authority of the central government, any suit or proceeding which is not collusive. What is collusive? Collusive means that is not real contested. Parties know that the defendant will get a relief. That is collusive. They made a plan. By making a plan, they with a friendly relationship, they have filed a suit. It is a collusive. It is not a really contested one. If the suit is not collusive, and in which any right to immutable property is directly and specifically in question. In that suit, the right to any immutable property is directly or specifically in question. And the property cannot be transferred or otherwise dealt with. That cannot be transferred or it cannot be dealt with by any party to suit. Who? The party to the suit or proceeding, so as to affect the rights of any other party thereto under any decree or order which may be made therein. If a decree or order will be made in that case, and then the another party will get any right, so that transfer will not affect the right of that party, except under the authority of the court and on such terms as it may impose. So it is very simple, this doctrine. What it says, when a suit is pending, where? In any court. In any court. In India or even outside India, if that court is established under the authority of the central government, then neither party to the suit can transfer that property or create or otherwise deal that property. But so as to affect the right of the other party in a decree or which right that person will be entitled to get in a decree or order to be passed in that by the court in that suit, except with the permission of the court with such terms and conditions as the court imposed. That means with permission of the court, if a portion of the property is transferred and court exempts that the decree will not be binding on that transfer, then okay. Otherwise, if such a transfer is made by any of the party, then that transfer is subject to enforcement of the decree or order to be passed by the court. This is doctrine of lease pendants. That why? Because court's order must be carried out at any cost, in whose hand that property is. So that's why. So that's if suppose a property is transferred, but a decree is passed that is not affecting that property, then in such case the transfer will get the property. So here the transfer is not, that means void. It is not void, but that transfer is subject to the decree or order to be passed by the court. That will be carried out on that property if such a decree is there. So this is the doctrine of lease pendants. This explanation added to this section says, for the purpose of this section, the pendency of a suit or proceeding shall be deemed to commence from the date of the presentation of the plaint. From the date when the presentation, from the date of presentation of the plaint or the institution of the proceeding in a court of competent jurisdiction. In competent jurisdiction, a plaint is presented. So if on that day property is transferred, then the doctrine of lease pendants as per the provisions of section 52 of the Transfer of Property Act will not be applicable. So for the purpose of this section, the pendency of a suit or proceedings shall be deemed to commence. The pendings of a suit or proceedings shall be deemed to commence from the day on which the plaint is presented or the proceeding instituted in the competent court, and to continue until the suit or proceeding has been disposed of by final decree that the period of lispendence will continue till there is a final disposal of the case, decree or order, and complete satisfaction or discharge of such decree or order has been obtained. That means execution has been completed. Final satisfaction of the decree has been made, or has become unobtainable by reason of the expiration of any period of limitation prescribed for execution. Suppose period of limitation prescribed for execution, during that period that elapsed, in such case that decree cannot be executed. So after expiry of that period of limitation thereof, by any law for the time being in force. Now it is a very simple section. Sometimes if you get a direct question, what is doctrine of lispendence? What will be the consequence of transfer during pendency of a suit? So you should know, but here you have to remember thus that the transferee became the transferee, what, in good faith for consideration. This principle is not applicable here. He cannot take the plea that the decree should not be applicable to me because I became the transferee in good faith without notice and for consideration. Even such a thing is there, this doctrine of this lispendence will be applicable, the provision of section 52 will be applicable. In whatever manner he may be the transferee. What will say? When an immovable property is transferred during pendency of a suit, then such transfer will be subject to the decree or order to be passed by the court. But when court has permitted for transfer with putting some terms and conditions in such case and exempted the operation of the decree, then that is okay. So if again and again you go through provision, during the pendency in any court having authority within the limits of India, then or a court established by a central government beyond the limits of India, any suit or proceeding, during pendency of suit or proceeding, which is not collusive, if that suit is not collusive and in which any right to immovable property is directly and specifically in question, the property cannot be transferred to otherwise dealt with by any party to the suit or proceeding so as to affect the right of any other party thereto under any decree or order which may be made therein, except under the authority of the court and on such terms as it may impose. When the pendency will be treated from the date of presentation of the plaint in a competent court or presentation of the proceeding or filing of the proceeding in a competent court, and the pendency period will continue till the suit is finally disposed of in appeal or till the execution proceeding, if any, which is pending, that is completely satisfaction is given in that execution proceeding, or the period of limit till the expiration of the period of limitation for execution proceeding. In nutshell, we covered the provisions of Transfer Property Act from section 46 to 52. In subsequent class, we will discuss the other provision, that is fraudulent transfer, etc. Thank you all.